my story with dyslexic strengths, and hopefully why it will help me teach you about yours. So like I said at the beginning, I knew I was capable, but I was consistently struggling. Not quite drowning, but not thriving either. I think often I think about this, that the problem was that I never truly was drowning. So I just didn't create change for so long because I was like, oh, it's like the next job will be fine. It will be fine. And I would kind of believe that every Monday I was going to create change, and kind of by Friday I was exhausted. So what I thought I was looking for is tangible ways of managing the challenges. And I thought that that would fix the imposter syndrome and the confidence. But managing the challenges just didn't feel like enough. I think something that unfortunately we have to accept as dyslexic people is it's about managing the challenges. It's about navigating them. It's about making them as easy to deal with as possible, rather than really fully taking them away, because the reality is that they're too all the time, every day, that we can never fully take away dyslexic challenges. We can only greatly minimize them. And so that's why it didn't work on my confidence issues. Like, if you don't make a spelling mistake for 2 weeks, you don't have confidence because you still think it's going to happen again on the 3rd week, or you're so aware of all the times it happened before. And also, who is giving someone a pat on the back for no spelling mistakes in an email or in meetings? Because the reality is that is the expectation. So it's not impressive to other people, even though for us it's taken us hours and a lifetime to achieve. Well, if I ever achieve it, I'll let you know. So that's when I realized that creating confidence meant feeling fully clear on my value. It meant it was kind of the missing piece of the puzzle. It was actually my real goal, which was fulfilling my potential. I had this real deep down, and I see this all the time with dyslexic people. They often will say to me straight away, like, I'm not stupid. And I'm like, I know you're not. I never thought you were. Because I think there's this sense that where we know our opportunity is up here, but what we're able to kind of deliver is here. And this differential can just drive us crazy. But that's when we're looking at it through a lens of just the challenges, of just the frustrations. But that's when I started looking into the dyslexic strengths. But a list of dyslexic strengths just didn't really help me, and it didn't help me explain the value to others. So for example, I remember I used to say all the time, like, what the hell is big? I mean, it was definitely is big picture thinking, or like, what is like narrative reasoning, and like, why does that help? I don't care, is kind of how I used to basically feel. I was like, it doesn't matter. What I need is real solutions. But the problem was that I didn't see the value in that. Like, big picture, what does that even mean? Or like thinking outside of the box, what does that mean? And that's kind of where I used to like hit up against, and I used to therefore dismiss it because I was like, oh, they're just like whatever. But if I didn't see the value in it, then neither would the people I was hoping would see my value. And this sounds really cynical, and I sound like such a cynic. Well, you know, I mean, Katie will attest to the fact I am a bit of a cynic. I always say I'm a recovering half glass empty person. But what I think, and again, this is why I think it can be helpful, is ultimately our bosses are lazy and perception is reality. And if we aren't able to flip the narrative and highlight our opportunities and change the narrative on our value, if we can't do it, if we don't see it in ourselves, then why the hell should our managers either? Like, obviously in an ideal world, we have good managers that are supportive and see the opportunity of us without us having to explain it. But the reality, in my experience, is way off the mark. So that's why I think it's so important that at the very minimum, we see our value, so that we can then do the work of the self-promotion, of the talking ourselves up, of highlighting the value and the opportunities of dyslexia. Not in a cringe way, like, I promise, not in a cringe way, but in a meaningful way, in a way that makes us sit up, makes our interviewer or our manager sit up and listen. So the problem is that I couldn't understand my value. And so therefore I couldn't articulate it to others, but also I was like hiding it and diminishing it as well. I used to make so many comments about minimizing the things I was good at or minimizing the opportunities that I had created. And so I was making it all the worse by being like, oh, it's nothing, like, oh, it's not even that good anyway, you know, like comments like that, like, which are the opposite of helpful. And this isn't my boss, this is actually my dad, but I thought it was my dad is like the most like opposite like positive person, and he really sees the strengths of dyslexia. So I just thought it was a nice juxtaposition between my like slightly negative Nancy vibes. So going on to the kind of real meat of this, what I wrote out when I was kind of first thinking about this is I was thinking, okay, the value of dyslexic strengths are that they map to the 21st century skills. And ultimately, technology is more and more taking away the challenges of dyslexia. So our strengths have more value and importance. And then because I'm a negative Nancy, I thought, well, they won't believe me. So how can I persuade them and explain it better? Because I've just done the very thing that I'm so afraid of, as being fluffy. So I pulled out these quotes. So this is the chairman of EY. Technology is dramatically changing the way we interact with work and each other. This means different jobs and tasks need different minds. Dyslexia can be an important part of this picture. This report demonstrates dyslexic individuals exhibit a range of capabilities that are real strengths in the evolving business environment. Now, okay, I know, and I'm in your head. I know what you're thinking. You're like, yeah. At a top level, people do say this, but my boss, my manager, my day-to-day life is still not there yet. Like, it hasn't trickled down yet. And I agree, which is why you're going to learn to see the value and then how to articulate it. But in case you needed one more convincing, the VP for Northern Europe at Facebook, you've got a brain that's wired for the 21st century. That's an incredible superpower. I mean, anyone that has been here a while knows the superpower makes me cringe a little bit, but good for him for calling it out. So the value of dyslexic strengths. What I wanted to get down to in the nitty-gritty and the examples is that really what it is that if you look at dyslexia and you understand dyslexia, it's basically what we call a spiky profile. It's basically that sometimes we're really good at things and sometimes we're really bad at things. And it's that differential that makes us know it's dyslexia. So when you're saying to me, I know that I'm smart, I know that I'm capable, I'm like, I know, because you couldn't be dyslexic without it. That is an integral part of being diagnosed dyslexic, is noticing those like differentials. And basically what we boil dyslexia down into is that the high value, difficult, hard to achieve tasks dyslexic people are great at, the low value, difficult, like easy to be successful at, this is through normal, like neurotypical standards, whatever normal means, the easy to achieve, the simple tasks, the things that have low value, dyslexic people find really difficult. And so when we're struggling, we're having a conversation purely around the narrative of the low value tasks. And the importance here is that we need to move the conversation up here, which is the high value task, the difficult to achieve things that we find easy, not the things down here that we find difficult. So here's a few examples, and I'm going to go into more detail of them, of what these high value dyslexic strengths are. So creating changes in process, creating meaningful, exciting changes in the way that processes happen that usually make them quicker, make them easier to navigate, make them more valuable, implementing innovative ideas in terms of thinking up things that are not going to be noticed, or thinking up things very quickly, thinking up things on the spot, thinking up things in a way that puts together two pieces of information that other people won't see. Another huge one, depending on your role, because so much of these, depends on what your career is, depends on what your situation is, depends on what your job is, which one is going to be the most important. And that's why we're going to talk about mapping it to jobs later on, is spotting problems before they arise. So if you're in any kind of strategic role, if you're a business analyst, if you're a consultant, if you're in sales implementation, any of these jobs, being able to see the big picture is a nice to have, but actually what it means is you're seeing each stage of the process, and then you're spotting things and spotting a problem or spotting an opportunity before they come to fruition, before they happen, because you have everything in your head at once it's got through the door, once you've understood everything. So that's the exciting opportunity of the value of dyslexic strengths. And by the way, if any of these are resonating, if any of these feel like they're hitting and you're like, oh, actually, that's me, definitely pop it in the chat, because the seeing people agree, seeing people start to see things will help people who have a bit more of a negative mindset realize that this is definitely the case. So it will not only help you, but it will help other people.